Hey everyone, my name is Troy, and I wanted to make a video about the recent Fortnite Cosmere crossover, with Kelsier from the Mistborn series being added to Fortnite as a purchasable skin. Now, I've been a fan of these books for a very long time, but I've noticed not many people in the Fortnite sphere know too much about this character and his history. I'll try to keep this video as brief as I can while giving you all of the info about Kelsier that you need. If you stick through to the end of the video and you think to yourself, hey, these books sound awesome, then I strongly recommend you picking them up for yourself. I've included links to where you can find them on Amazon or Audible in the description down below. And while you're down there, why not give this video a like and maybe share it with your friends? It would really help me out, and it will definitely help out everybody who's trying to figure out more about this character. Now, before we jump into the meat of this video, be aware that while I'll do my best to avoid major spoilers, there is still going to be some details about this book that I'll be talking about that some may consider spoilers. If you're okay with that, then feel free to keep watching the video. But if you're not, then maybe consider clicking off the video and reading the books first before I indirectly spoil something for you. Now, with that said, let's get into it. The first Mistborn book, The Final Empire, was released back in July of 2006, so these books have actually been out for quite a long time now. It was written by the author Brandon Sanderson, or as he's more commonly referred to as Before Mistborn, Brandon was more famously known for finishing Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, after Robert Jordan unfortunately passed away before he could complete it. He also wrote a standalone novel called Elantris, but we won't be discussing Elantris today. Mistborn was Brandon's first major trilogy of books, and good God, are they depressing. Scadrial, the world where Mistborn takes place, is not a place that you would want to live. Ash spewed forth by the Ash Mount volcanoes falls from the sky constantly. The sky and the sun are a deep crimson from the smoke in the atmosphere, and at night, a thick blanket of mist covers the world where mist wraiths prowl looking for prey. Ruling over Scadrial is a totalitarian government known as the Final Empire, which is controlled by the enigmatic Lord Ruler, who is worshipped like a god. The people of the Final Empire are broken into two separate groups: the nobles, who hold a certain measure of wealth and affluence in the empire, and the Ska, who are a sort of peasant class. Ska are often enslaved by the nobles and forced to work in ash-covered fields tending to crops, or sweeping the streets of the capital city Luthadel, or maybe if they're lucky, they might have some sort of merchant class thing going on selling basic wares. But all in all, life as a Ska tends to suck. Among both the Ska and the nobles are people who are gifted with a rare gift, allomancy. Allomancy is a form of magic that a rare few people can use by ingesting and burning specific metals like steel or iron, for example. If an allomancer burned steel, thin blue lines would appear from the person's chest and point to nearby sources of metal, like a coin on the ground or a doorknob or a light post or whatever. The allomancer could then push on these sources of metal, and if that little bit of metal is lighter than the person pushing on it, that bit of metal would be shot away from them. If it's heavier than them, the allomancer is pushed back. Now, iron is similar to steel, except instead of pushing on the metal, iron pulls towards the allomancer and vice versa. There are more metals, 10 to be exact, but if I sat here explaining them all to you, we'd be here all day. And finally, a Mistborn can utilize all 10 of these allomantic metals, whereas a Misting can only utilize one metal. Enter Kelsier. Before Kelsier became Mistborn, he was a thief who was fed up with the Final Empire. He, his wife Mare, and a group of other Ska thieves planned multiple heists to steal valuable resources from the Empire. One day, Kelsier set his eyes on one of the biggest heists he could plan: storm the Lord Ruler's castle, Kredik Shaw, and steal his ATM cash. As you'd expect, the heist failed, and as punishment, Kelsier and Mare were sent to the pits of Hath Sin. Now, atium, which I mentioned before, is one of the 10 allomantic metals, but it is the most valuable of them all. Atium, when burned, allows the Allomancer to see briefly into the future. Not so special for everyday use, but when two highly trained Mistborn assassins fight one another, and one of them has Atium and the other doesn't, the one who does has a massive advantage over their opponent by seeing exactly what they're going to do before they do it. Atium can only be found in one place, the Pits of Hathsin, but obtaining it is a brutal process. Slaves must delve into underground mines with no light or tools and search in rocky tunnels for geodes which contain one singular bead of Atium. And slaves who can't find at least one bead of Atium after a week of searching in these mines are beaten to death. Kelsier spent months here, finding geodes in the rocks and terribly scarring his arms in the process before he eventually snapped, which is a term used when a person gains their allomantic powers, usually from some great source of intense trauma. Kelsier is the only known person to have ever escaped from the Pits of Hathsin. All right, I know I just threw a lot of information at you guys, but the lore section of this video is for the most part done. It's in the garbage, it's burning with all the other crap that's in there, so let's actually just take a look at the skin. In this section, I'll just point out key features about it, what they are and what they represent, and just, generally fanboy over it. All right, so here's the skin. Here's Kelsier looking great, looking fabulous. And the first thing that you'll probably notice is that he's floating in midair. This is probably a representation of steel pushing. In some promotional material, and even in this background screen, you can see Kelsier throwing coins out of his hands, and this is extremely common for Mistborn to do. Now remember, when a Mistborn steel pushes on something that's lighter than them, that object is pushed away until it can't move any further. So if a Mistborn drops a coin onto the ground and pushes on it, the coin cannot physically move any further and the Mistborn is pushed into the air. Now, it's not technically floating or flying, as the Mistborn's balance here is super important. It's like standing on one leg, but that leg is a small coin 100 feet below you, and you're suspended in the air. Guys, help. The next thing I wanted to point out is Kelsier's cloak. Instead of it being one solid piece of fabric, it's cut into ribbons or strips. This is purely for aerodynamics. If Kelsier here was flying through the air and he had one big flap of fabric on his back, it would essentially act as a parachute, tugging on his neck the whole time while he's in the air. And also, it just looks pretty awesome. Up next, Kelsier's scars. Obviously, these are from his time in the Pits of Hathsin. Personally, though, I think they're a little too tame for my taste because in the books, his arms are described as being completely scarred up to the elbows, with newer scars covering up older ones. So to me, these look kind of lame, but that's just my opinion. Now, these spikes are really interesting, and I'm honestly surprised they included them. In Scadrial, there is the system of magic, Allomancy, which I briefly explained before, but there are also two additional systems of magic that complement Allomancy. These two are Feruchemy and Hemalurgy. I won't be covering Feruchemy here in this video, but I'll really quickly go over Hemalurgy so you can understand what these spikes are and what they represent. These spikes on Kelsier's back are known as Hemalurgic spikes. As I said before, the Last Empire is a dismal place to live, and it's made even more dismal by creatures known as Inquisitors. These gnarly dudes are, or were, humans that have had giant metal spikes driven through their eyes and bodies at specific points to give the person, lucky or unlucky enough to even be in this position, allomantic powers. The process is bloody and brutal, and the Inquisitors are both respected and feared, as they are the Lord Ruler's most trusted underlings. Of course, this is just a brief explanation of these guys, as they are a massive point in the story, and I don't want to give too much away here, so if you want to know more about these dudes, go read the books. Also, little detail here, these spikes have the symbol for steel on them. That's pretty neat. Next up are his daggers. These volcanic glass daggers are a common weapon used by all Mistborn. Now, nothing on Kelsier's body, except maybe these little vials on his belt, which we'll cover in a little bit, are made of metal. These daggers are made entirely of glass, so they can't be steel pushed or iron pulled away from him, and they're just as sharp as a regular dagger. However, they can be a bit brittle, and there have been times when these daggers shatter when used incorrectly. And the last detail I wanted to notice here, and one that I really appreciate Epic Games for including, are the metal vials on his belt and his coin purse. Coin purse is pretty obvious. It's filled with coins. Kelsier can take one of these coins out of here, drop it on the ground, fly away, or maybe even shoot one at an enemy.
Target neutralized.
If Kelsier was burning tons of steel flying around, then his stores of metal would drain pretty quickly. These vials contain flakes of metal suspended in a solution of some kind to help quickly restore his supply. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, why doesn't he just swallow a coin or something if he's out of metals? Well, have you ever tried to swallow a quarter? Yeah, not pleasant. And there you have it. Hopefully this helped explain who this guy is and the world he's from. If you'd like to find out more for yourself, you can normally find the Mistborn trilogy, which is The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages, at your local bookstore. If you don't have a local bookstore, I've included links to Amazon and Audible where you can find them, or if you have a local library, I'm pretty sure you could find Mistborn on the shelf somewhere. Anyway, guys, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like and share it with your friends or on a Discord server or wherever, so more Fortnite players can learn about Kelsier and Mistborn. Then maybe check out Elantris, or maybe Warbreaker, or the White Sands graphic novel, or Mistborn Era 2, or the Stormlight Archive. Yeah, Brandon likes to write. A lot. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching my video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care.